Good morning, everyone, and once again, welcome to our seminar. This is our final week 13 for our seminar presentations. Our topic for this week is transnational organized crime, so transnational organized crime in PNG, and we talked about many of the different types of transnational organized criminal activities like drug trafficking, arms smuggling, human trafficking, illegal logging, gold smuggling is becoming a really big security issue now in PNG. Just this morning or yesterday, they caught another person trying to smuggle gold bars from PNG out. Wildlife trafficking and money laundering. To continue on our discussion, we have groups 1, 2, and 3 will be presenting in this session 1. So without further delay, I now hand over the virtual microphone to Anne Marie, who will be representing group 2. Marie, please go ahead.
Good morning, Mr. Yagiora and colleagues. I will be representing Group 2. So we have been tasked with the question. The strategy identifies illicit drugs as the most prevalent TNOC activity in the region and links drug markets to violence, intimidation, and community fear. How has the drug threat evolved in the Pacific? For example, major seizures or rising methamphetamine concerns in Fiji, Samoa, Tonga, or PNG, and what prevention and harm reduction strategies have Pacific governments implemented that PNG could scale up? So first, I will define the term TNOC. TNOC is an abbreviation for Transnational Organized Crime. So according to the UNODC, transnational organized crime refers to illegal activities carried out by organized criminal groups across multiple countries, exploiting weak governance systems, porous maritime borders, and limited enforcement capacity for profit. In the Pacific, this mainly includes drug trafficking, illegal fishing and logging, human trafficking, and financial crimes. The region's geography makes it highly vulnerable. A regional study across 6 Pacific countries, including Papua New Guinea, found that cannabis remains the most widely used illicit drug, while harder drugs like methamphetamine and cocaine are still limited, but emerging and increasingly concerning. So the Pacific Islands Forum Strategy 2024 to 2028 identifies illicit drugs as the most widespread form of organized crime in the region. It includes importation, transshipment, precursor trafficking, domestic distribution, and consumption. This shows that drug trafficking is now both a security issue and a public health concern. This means drug markets are no longer isolated criminal operations. They are now directly affecting governance, safety, and community well-being across the Pacific. Moving on to the overall evolution of the drug threat. The drug threat in the Pacific has evolved mainly in 3 ways. First, from drugs like cannabis to synthetic drugs. Second, the emergence of the Pacific as a transit zone known as the Pacific Drug Highway. And third, a shift from transit countries to increasing domestic consumption. These changes show a shift from localized drug activity to a more complex transnational and harmful drug environment. So shift 1. First, there has been a shift from locally produced cannabis to synthetic drugs such as methamphetamine and cocaine. In Fiji, cannabis was historically dominant, but recent data shows a major rise in synthetic drugs. Authorities have recorded over 31 tons of illicit drug seizures, with methamphetamine now playing a far more significant role in harm and value, according to MyTV Fiji 2024. This shows that Pacific drug markets are becoming more globalized and increasingly dangerous. Shift 2, the Pacific Drug Highway. Secondly, the Pacific has become part of what experts call the Pacific Drug Highway, where island nations are used as transit routes between Latin America, Asia, Australia, and New Zealand. This is according to the Lowy Institute 2022. A strong example is Tonga. In 2024, police seized 15 kilograms of methamphetamine worth approximately $8 million, linked to international organized criminal networks. Authorities confirmed that this was part of wider trafficking routes, not isolated local activity. This shows that Pacific Island states are no longer peripheral. They are now actively integrated into global drug trafficking systems, supplying larger markets such as Australia and New Zealand, according to the ABC News 2024. And lastly, shift 3, from transit to domestic consumption. The drug issue has shifted from transit activity to domestic consumption within Pacific communities. So in Papua New Guinea, cannabis remains the most widely used illicit drug and is deeply embedded in many communities, especially in urban centers like Port Moresby and the Highlands region. More concerning is the emergence of synthetic drugs. In 2022, PNG police seized 125 kilograms of methamphetamine worth around 15 million Australian dollars in Port Moresby. This shows that PNG is no longer only a transit or production area, it is increasingly exposed to domestic drug markets, leading to addiction, crime, and social harm. Importantly, as I mentioned before, about the study conducted by the Lowy Institute, it highlights that the drug trade in the Pacific is no longer just about trafficking routes, it's about deepening social and community impact. So drug trafficking is now contributing to rising local drug availability, increased domestic consumption, and a stronger link between drug and organized crime at a community level. This has real-time consequences for Pacific societies as it increases pressure on already limited health and policing systems, contributes to youth vulnerability, and fuels broader social instability. So, onto prevention and harm reduction strategies. What PNG can scale up? Pacific governments are responding through enforcement, prevention, and harm reduction strategies. These offer important lessons for Papua New Guinea. So, Fiji uses wastewater drug monitoring in partnership with Australia to track real drug consumption trends and identify emerging drug use early. Fiji Times 2025. Unlike PNG, which often responds after drug seizures, Fiji can now detect trends before they fully spread. So this suggests that PNG should develop early detection systems such as wastewater or health-based monitoring in urban areas. This would allow faster data-driven responses rather than reactive policing. Number 2, border security and regional cooperation. Tonga strengthens border enforcement through regional cooperation with Australia and New Zealand, focusing on intercepting drugs before they reach communities. PNG should expand maritime surveillance, strengthen customs intelligence, and improve regional intelligence sharing. Given PNG's geography, this is critical to preventing drug inflows. Number 3, prevention and harm reduction. Samoa focuses on prevention through community-based education, youth engagement, and harm reduction programs. PNG should focus more on expanding school-based education at a primary level and through church and community awareness programs and youth counseling services. This helps reduce demand and treat drug use as both a health and a social issue. In conclusion, the drug threat in the Pacific has evolved from a largely cannabis-based local issue into a complex transnational challenge involving synthetic drugs, trafficking networks, and increasing domestic consumption. Countries like Fiji, Tonga, and Papua New Guinea each demonstrate different stages of this evolution, from production to transit to local consumption and harm. Pacific governments are responding through regional cooperation, intelligence-led policing, border security, and prevention strategies. For Papua New Guinea, the most effective response is to combine early detection, stronger border control, and community-based prevention to address both the supply and demand. Thank you. That's the end of the presentation.
Okay, thank you, Anne-Marie. A very interesting presentation. I hope all of you have taken note of what Anne-Marie has shared with us. I agree with the strategy to target awareness at the primary school level. We have to tell young children that methamphetamine is very dangerous. We've seen the effects of marijuana addiction and those on the streets suffering from uh, drug-induced psychosis, but we've not yet seen the effects of methamphetamine and those who are addicted and what distraction it will cause to their livelihood or their lives. So that's something that we have to advise our young kids now to not try to taste or even dream about tasting or trying methamphetamine. All right, thank you, Group 2 and Marie. We move on to Rosemary and Jello, representing Group 3. Please, Rosemary, go ahead. Virtual microphone is yours.
Hello, Mr. Can you hear us?
Yes, loud and clear. Please go ahead.
So, thank you, Mr. Aguirre. Good morning, everyone. This morning, Cleo and I will be representing Group 3 for this week's seminar. The question that was given to us reads, the strategy highlights cybercrime and cyber-enabled crime as a growing threat driven by digital connectivity, e-commerce, and weak regulatory environments. How have Pacific Island states with stronger cyber systems, such as Fiji or Samoa, attempted to improve cyber resilience, and what gaps remain in PNG cybercrime readiness compared to those states? So in order to address the question effectively, we have divided it into 3 parts. I will begin by defining the key terms and explain why cybercrime is a growing threat. Cleo will then cover the second and third parts, focusing on PNG cybercrime readiness and the gaps compared to countries such as Fiji and Samoa. So what is cybercrime? According to the European Commission 2024, cybercrime consists of Cybercrime consists of criminal acts committed online by using electronic communication networks and information systems. Cyber-enabled crimes, according to the United Nations 2024, includes traditional criminal activities conducted online, such as trafficking, fraud, and incitement to violence and hate. So the growing cyber threat. Cybercrime and cyber-enabled crime are growing threats due to increased digital connectivity, the expansion of e-commerce, and weak regulatory environments. Greater use of the internet for communication, business, and financial transactions have increased opportunities for criminal activities online. Weak regulatory and enforcement systems make it difficult for some countries to effectively prevent and respond to these offenses. In addition, the anonymity means to the state of being unknown or nameless. And cross-border nature of cyberspace allows offenders to operate across jurisdictions, making investigations and prosecutions more complex. This is according to IGA 2023 and United Nations 2024. Thank you. I will now hand over the virtual mic to Ms. Daton. Now let's look at how some Pacific Island states, particularly Fiji and Samoa, have tried to strengthen their defenses. So Pacific Island states with stronger cyber systems, such as Fiji, have improved cyber resilience through the development of legal frameworks, institutional arrangements, and international cooperation.
So Fiji's Cybercrime Act 2021 defines offenses such as fraud, identity theft, and system interference, and provides legal mechanisms for addressing cybercrime. It's IGA 2023. The legislation also supports cooperation with other countries, which is important due to the transnational nature of cybercrime. So these developments reflect efforts to strengthen legal and cooperative responses to cyber threats in the region. But how does Papua New Guinea compare? Let's move to the gaps and analysis. So in comparison, Papua New Guinea continues to face gaps in cyber crime readiness. Although PNG has introduced the Cybercrime Code Act 2016 and the National Cybersecurity Policy 2021, enforcement remains limited. Law enforcement agencies face constraints in technical and investigative capacity, which affects their ability to effectively detect, investigate, and prosecute cybercrime. So institutional coordination is also still developing, and implementation of existing policies is not yet fully effective. As a result, PNG's cybercrime readiness remains weaker compared to countries such as Fiji, particularly in enforcement capacity and practical implementation. Now, moving on to our conclusion. So to conclude, while countries like Fiji have improved cyber resilience through stronger legal frameworks, while countries like Fiji have improved cyber resilience through stronger legal frameworks, enforcement mechanisms, and international cooperation, PNG continues to face challenges in implementation, technical capacity, and coordination. So strengthening these areas will be essential for PNG to effectively respond to the growing threat of cybercrime. And that brings us to the end of our presentation. Thank you. Here is our references.
All right, thank you, Ms. Dutton and Ms. Massa, for sharing with us your answer to the assigned question. And we also thank your group as well, Group 3. So we'll stop here. We have Group 2 and Group 3 presenting today. And I also hope that you've gone through or read the original Transnational Organized Crime Disruption Strategy. And this will help you to understand what is happening in the region in terms of countries working together to try to mitigate or address or disrupt what criminal organizations are trying to do using our waterway or the sea, Pacific Ocean, as a drug highway for these different cartels, and not only for drugs but also smuggling of arms and people and all kinds of illicit activities that are illegal activities, stealing of fish in our EEZ and territorial waters that are happening in our region. So we'll stop here. We'll move the other group 1 to Friday. So Friday we'll have Group 1, Group 4, 5, 6, and 7. We'll have these groups to present on Friday. But I want to thank Group 2 and Group 3 for preparing and for presenting, sharing with us your answers to the question. And if you have any questions or comments, please share in our discussion forum. There's a lot of things to dissect from both presentations today. And like I said, going back to what Anne-Marie said, the primary school awareness campaign and understanding what, coming back to Rosemary and Cello, what they have shared with us, what Fiji and the other countries are doing in terms of cybersecurity, and all these things are really important. You as future policymakers and journalists should take note of what is happening. And in terms of investigative journalism, it's to investigate and write about transnational organized crime is a very dangerous area. And you see that most of these criminal organizations are well established. They have insiders within the police force, within the government itself, bureaucracy, and as well as parliamentarians. And the network stretch from all levels of society, different people. So it will be a very risky business trying to investigate further what these cartels or organizations are doing and how they're transporting the product from one point to another point A to point B to point C, and uh, what machineries, what equipments they're using, people and the connection, the networks. So all these things are really very sensitive and very dangerous if you're looking at investigative journalism into transnational organized crime. And not only in terms of investigative journalism, but also to work with a task force to put together laws and policies to mitigate or address these threats from transnational criminal activities. It's also a very dangerous endeavor. So it's something all of us should look at and try to see how best we can identify the risk involved and then see how best we can work to address the risk. And then the safety and security of our people is very important. That's something that it's at the forefront. It's part of our national interest, security interest, to make sure that our community, our society that we live in, it's free from drugs like methamphetamine, cocaine, which are very destructive, and free from illegal arms, and free from threats caused by cyber hackers, stealing of identity, going in and backing into people's account, card cloning, all these activities. So these are things that are affecting us now, slowly becoming part of us, and people are learning quickly, and then we're trying to venture into these illegal activities to make ends meet for ourselves. So it's something that all of you should take note of and read more the media, what's been covered in the media, and then other sources or literature. Continue to read so it helps you to develop a broader, better understanding of the transnational criminal issues that are affecting our country and the type of network that is in place to facilitate all those activities. So we'll stop here. Thank you everyone for your presence this morning in our virtual meeting room. We'll meet again on Friday. You all have a great day, and we thank Group 2 and Group 3 for sharing with us your answers.